Before we do anything else, there's a community post that's gone up. I'll pop a link to it in the top pinned comment as well. And there's a link in there to vote for your best games of 2022 on Switch. Please do take part in that. A thanks to Cultured Bucket, who does the Discord channel. He set that all up for us, so yeah, nice one. Hi everyone and welcome back to Switch Up. It's absolutely brass monkeys outside, so I am literally hiding in the shed with the underfloor on. Since the Game Awards, which unusually Nintendo actually attended in some form, we've got some very nice sales indeed. I've also reinstated one game you should avoid because it's terrible, and I've written a little mini review of the Joy-Con we use in a lot of our videos. That's in the description. As always, you can save 10% on any of these games by buying your eShop credit over at switchup.at, and I am looking forward to giving away that Nintendo Switch OLED based on the 12 days of Switch Up that starts next week. Click all of the things, push all the buttons, and leave your normal comments. I'm always around for the first hour or so after the video's gone live. What are the most interesting games on sale this week? Well, let's find out. It was very cool to see that we've got a sequel to this one coming next year, and it's Hades. At the moment it's half price, down to $12.49 or your regional equivalent, and Supergiant really did knock the ball out of the park with this one. It has incredible voice acting. Although it's a roguelite, the story carries over all of your runs, and it's really easy to pick up and play, but honestly, it's quite tough to actually master it. If you're unfamiliar with Supergiant games, they actually released two of the best games we have on Switch, Bastion and Transistor, and this was their next outing, and it's just so good in terms of the controls, the design, the storytelling, and the most important part, which is the gameplay. There are lots of different weapons that you can use throughout your different runs, and it has seen a number of patches since it first launched. It's almost flawless now in terms of its performance. We reviewed it on the channel, very highly rated indeed, and well worth your consideration. It comes in at a reasonable 5.7 gigs. Then you've got Larian Studios' epic Divinity Original Sin 2, the definitive edition, which is probably the best classic RPG on the Nintendo Switch, and it's available at the moment at a very discounted price in the US regions at 40% off. Now it takes it down to $29.99, which might seem like a lot of money, but it's one of those games that if you haven't played it already, it is definitely worth that price. You can create your own character or choose from one that's been pre-created for you, but throughout the hundreds or so hour-long story, depending on how slow you are, or how many little side quests you like to do, you really can make your own choices. So if you need to find a special item, you could go out of your way to find a load of money and then buy it. You could kill the person who owns it, or you could get someone else to do your dirty work for you. It's really well written, and it's just brilliant. If you're a fan of things like Baldur's Gate, obviously with Baldur's Gate 3 on the horizon, this is the same studio that's going to bring us that one, and I strongly recommend checking it out. It comes in at 11.8 gigs. All regions have the Portal Companion Collection at the moment at 33% off, which includes Portal 1 and 2 together. I was impressed by the performance of this one, and it reminded me that the second game actually features the voice of Stephen Merchant, which I wasn't aware of as I'm a massive Office fan, so that was very cool. Now if you're not sure what these are, they're essentially puzzle games in a three-dimensional world that use the titular portals as the main means through which they create their puzzles. It's mind-bending, it's very clever, and like I say, it runs really nicely on the Switch. For under 10 quid, you would be hard pressed to get a Macca's for that these days. They feature offline 1 or 2 player, they run on the Source engine, which gave me hopes that potentially we'd have a Half-Life port in some description, or maybe just give us the whole orange box if you remember that. Awesome. And they clock in at 10 gigs, obviously published and developed by Valve. That sale goes on until December the 18th. If you're in the US regions, or you've just gone to our website switchup.gg and clicked the US flag and bought some eShop credit, then you'll know that Hollow Knight is currently on sale. Now this is quite a rare one to actually go on sale, and at the moment it's 50% off, taking it down to $7.50. Imagine that, $7.50 for a game that got 20 out of 20 value when it was full price. It's an incredible Metroidvania with some Souls-like combat difficulty elements, but don't let those annoying little buzzwords put you off. It's just a brilliantly created adventure title with some excellent action, and it's all set in Hallownest, where it's filled with strange bugs and insects and a cartographer that creates maps. And yeah, it just has a real ambiance to it, but it is brutally difficult. But even then, having said that, it's not all difficult. There are parts of it, some of the enemies, most of the enemies are actually fine, but you'll reach boss areas that will give you a real challenge. But again, please don't let that put you off. This game is outstanding. It's 5.2 gigs and it comes from Team Cherry, and there is a physical of this as well that you can usually find for cheap. The hidden gem for the week then is Celeste. I'm joking. Absolutely not a hidden gem, quite the opposite, but a brilliant game, and at the moment at 75% off, at least in the US regions. This is a essential purchase for sure. What is it? Well, it's essentially a tough as nails platform game that sees you trying to get to the top of the mountain known as Celeste. The actual main character is called Madeline, and there's a B-side that was released that is much more difficult, that adds a load of free new content. It's funny this, because I think if I looked at this one just on face value, I might not pick it up. I only really got into it because everyone said how good it was, and then having tried it, experienced the full game, it does have something particularly special about it, but it's difficult to articulate, whether it's a combination of the audio, the writing, the actual storyline, which is really heavy. Something is quite memorable. So if you're looking for something that potentially is going to be one of your favorites and really stick in your memory, then this might be it. It's just 1.5 gigs, and the sale, as I say, goes on until December the 19th. Developed and published by Matt Makes Games. It's really nice to see that the definitive edition of Gamedec is on a new sale at its new lowest price ever, and that's down to £10.79. As you might know, I reviewed this on the channel. It was decent. It's not an exceptional game, but it's a decent one. Personally, I really like the concept of entering these people's virtual worlds to solve crimes within them. And there's a little bit of freedom as well. Some of your decisions will change the outcome, but I think they could do a lot more with a sequel. Now, at the moment, it's £10.79, as I say, which is 60% off, but they just added a load of new free content. That includes a brand new story, a bit of patchwork as well, because it did need a little tinkering, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with this. If you're a fan of the original Blade Runner and you like that semi-dystopian future, or even the Westworld series, this one will appeal to you as well. Just 4.9 gigs, and it's published by Untold Tales. Little Gator game isn't even out yet. It comes out on December the 14th, which is next week, and it has a pre-order discount until December the 21st of 30% off, taking it down to £11.72, and the review embargo isn't up yet, so I can't actually talk fully about it, but I will go out on a limb and say to add this one to your wish lists and keep your eye out for reviews, because there's so much to love here. Now, what I can say is stuff based on the trailer and things like that, so it's fine, is that you're on the island with your sister, and essentially she's getting too old, so she kind of stops having fun and just concentrates on work, and you make it your mission to essentially get her back into having fun again, and to do that you have to show her how awesome this island is and how much there is to do. Now it then goes on to expand to a larger one, and you'll meet loads of different characters. It's got a really neat little crafting system, and it's, yeah, if you like things like a short hike, I have a feeling this is going to go down very well with a lot of people. That 60 frames per second gameplay as well just looks so silky smooth, and it's so easy to control as you glide around with your little parachute. So maybe stick this one in your wish list and keep an eye on it for those reviews, hopefully coming out at some point next week. My little gem for the week then is Dusk. It's a old school first person shooter that was created by a guy that was heavily inspired by the classics and who is part of a team called New Blood Interactive. All the good stuff. 60 FPS, HD rumble, gyro controls, oh yes, he loves his gyro controls, a brilliant soundtrack and loads of cool weapons. It's one of those you can pick up. In fact, this would be a very nice little loading game, something you can pick up and play for a few minutes before you choose something else. But honestly, this is more than a loading game, because you're going to want to finish the entire thing. Now, sadly, I don't know if he's released it yet, but the Switch version didn't have multiplayer at launch. If it has, then I'll add it to the next all patched up video, because that would make a nice little update. Other than that, it's a 2.8 gigabyte download, take you around about 10 to 15 hours to finish, which is a decent length for this style of game, and that sale goes on until December the 28th. Untitled Goose Game, brilliant, really interesting take on the. I don't even know what you'd class this as, like maybe an action puzzle game with some sandbox elements to it, but you essentially play as a naughty goose. And I think they added in a 2-player mode as well, which would make it a heck of a lot more fun. The whole thing takes place in a very small town, but it's really clever how you work your way from area to area, and that expands, and they act as essentially individual levels. So you start by the water and then you make your way out, and there's almost like a Farmer McGregor type character. Then you have to do a few things there, and then you move into the town centre, and it just progresses from place to place with you terrorising the neighbourhood as this angry goose. As an interesting aside, you can actually just use a single controller each, so a single joycon each, to play this if you're going to do it in handheld or something like that, which is always a nice touch for that couch co-op play. It fits into 1.1 gigs, and this sale goes on until the 19th of December and is US only. I wasn't joking at the start of the video when I said it is absolutely brass monkeys outside. Like, it is freezing here at the moment in the UK, which is kind of nice around this time of year, but then you really do start to need those cozy games. I'm sure some of you like me, you stick the fire on because the heating's too expensive, and then you sit by the fire and just chill with something like Stardew Valley. Now, at the moment in the US, it's 33% off, but it's not an expensive game to begin with, honestly. It takes it down to $9.99, and it is well worthy of the hype. It's developed by Concerned Ape. Obviously, he has his blog and he's always trying to update and improve the game. And unlike the Minecraft guy, he's not planning on selling the whole thing off to someone else. So it does retain a lot of its core character with every update. Now, that's not a knock on Minecraft. I do enjoy that game, but they also added multiplayer into this one as well. Now, with the co-op, I think it's online only co-op, so you can play co-op with friends connecting over the internet, but there's no local, which is a bit of a shame. There is also physical of this one as well, if you're interested in that side, but it does live up to the hype. It's the ultimate cozy game, but it's also pretty hardcore in terms of building up your farm, marrying everyone in the town, and spending far too long fishing for absolutely no reason other than the fact it's nice. Very good game and well worthy of the acclaim it receives. Alright, that takes me on to then one game that you may potentially want to avoid because it's absolute trash. And I feel a bit bad about this one because I was looking earlier and for some reason it popped up on my feed, as sometimes happens. And I watched a few other reviews from different channels on this. And yeah, I felt bad because one of the actress who plays his ex-wife, who constantly speaks throughout the entire game, was in the comments like, thanks very much. And then I went back and watched my review and man, I was brutal. This was... This was a savage review, but honestly I thought it was rubbish. So I mean, you've got to be savage when you think something's rubbish, haven't you? Like, it's almost the law, or at least it should be. And why was it so rubbish? Well, everything about it was bad. One, you couldn't change the axis on your controls, which was just, that's a sin. No gyro. The actual combat was terrible. There's no impact to it. The sound effects are appalling. The voice acting, well, I don't want to talk about it again. Don't want to spoil another Christmas. And it's just a clunky mess, really. It's just not fun. Now, it's a shame because although Hollow wasn't a masterpiece, at least it had some suspense at times. This one just throws that out the window and is like balls to the wall action, except with these really generic characters, and it's just not fun. So yeah, maybe you'll like it. But not for me. Alright, a quick recap from last week then. All of the games you're about to see in the next 10 seconds are still on sale. And that is it for this week's sales video. Now, the 12 days of SwitchUp starts in only a few days. We're really excited. Obviously, we're going to be giving away that Switch OLED at the end of it, but it's not about that really. It's about the SwitchUp community, which we do genuinely have a decent community. You only have to look down in the comments to see the amount of positivity. Like, it's massively skewed compared to a lot of YouTube. When you go into comment sections and it's everyone just whining and stuff. I just don't understand that, but we're really thankful that we don't have that, honestly. Obviously, you get the occasional basement dweller, but, it wouldn't be any fun if there weren't any of those. So yeah, thanks to all of you. Thanks to our Patreons and our members as well. As I said at the very beginning, please do take part in the community post that's gone out tonight. There's a link there where you can vote on your top 3 Nintendo Switch games of all time. There's a link in there for you to vote on your top 3 Nintendo Switch games of 2022. All that's left to say then is that for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya!